What if I told you that stepping on the bathroom scale and seeing you've actually gained 2 pounds might be like the absolute best proof that your fat loss diet is working perfectly?
I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive,
Right.
but it's true.
Right. So welcome in, fellow learner. Today, we are basically tearing down the illusion of fitness. Usually when people talk about transforming their bodies, there is this expectation of a highlight reel.
Oh, absolutely. The classic montage.
Yeah, exactly. We picture the heavy weights, the sweat, the dramatic before and after photos. It all looks like this incredibly straightforward, mechanical process.
And that creates a completely false narrative. From the outside, it appears to be a simple math equation. Like, you apply the input, you achieve the output, and boom, you claim your victory.
But then you actually try to do it in the real world.
Right, and it falls apart.
Exactly. Suddenly that beautiful math equation gets completely blown apart by a weekend business trip or, a dinner with friends or just staring at the scale in absolute despair because the number went up even though you followed the plan flawlessly.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. So today, we're getting into the grit of that struggle. We're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating set of materials, specifically Module 6 of a comprehensive fitness knowledge base.
Yeah, and this specific module is brilliant because it skips past the elementary concepts. Like, we are not talking about how to perform a bicep curl or the basic definition of a calorie here.
Right. No beginner stuff today.
Exactly. We are looking at the advanced behavioral and physiological friction that happens when you try to sustain a transformation.
We're looking at the hidden architecture of fitness success. So our mission for this deep dive is to uncover the psychology of habit, how you can actually navigate real-world lifestyle traps without losing your mind or your social life, and some of the completely unglamorous physiological realities that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, the stuff they don't put on Instagram.
Totally. We are talking gut health, internal abdominal pressure, the real toll on the body. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if we want to successfully hack the body, we have to understand the mind first.
And that foundational mindset is where everything either holds together or just completely falls apart. I mean, before we can even begin to tackle external lifestyle challenges like, navigating a restaurant menu or a chaotic travel schedule, we have to dismantle the internal roadblocks.
And the biggest of those roadblocks is, what, just a fundamental misunderstanding of what actually drives progress.
Yes, exactly. It's a misunderstanding of what actually drives long-term progress.
We're talking about motivation here. Or I guess rather the trap of motivation, because we treat it like it's this endless, reliable fuel source.
Which is a catastrophic error in program design.
Really? Catastrophic.
Oh, yeah. Relying on the emotion of motivation is a guaranteed point of failure because motivation is entirely transient. It's a mood. You cannot build a permanent long-term physiological adaptation on something as fragile as a mood.
That makes sense. It comes and goes.
Right. True progress requires strict behavioral habits and daily discipline. Think about the psychology of brushing your teeth.
Okay.
You don't need to watch a hype video to feel motivated to brush your teeth in the morning.
Right. I'm not playing heavy mother to get fired up for corrects.
Exactly. You just do it because it's a non-negotiable habit. Fitness has to occupy that exact same psychological space.
But people push back on that, right? They say, well, once I start seeing results, the results will motivate me. But the research in this module completely shatters that idea, doesn't it?
It completely tears it down. The data shows that physical results are historically terrible short-term motivators.
But why is that? I mean, why wouldn't seeing your body change make you want to keep going? That seems so backward.
Well, it's because of the psychological mismatch between expectation and biological reality. Human beings consistently set completely unrealistic milestones.
Like losing 10 pounds in a week.
Right. We expect a massive visual transformation in 2 reps because that is the timeline marketing has sold us for decades. But the human body operates on a much slower evolutionary timeline.
It's stubborn.
Very. So when you put in 2 weeks of just excruciating effort and the visual changes are microscopic, the lack of dramatic results crushes that emotional motivation. We fail to comprehend the sheer volume of daily, mundane, unsexy steps required to force a biological adaptation.
Which brings us to perhaps the most humbling part of this deep dive. When the results don't happen on our unrealistic timeline, we don't usually blame our timeline.
No, we definitely do not.
We blame our bodies.
Yeah.
We are dealing with the illusion of compliance. Basically, we lie to ourselves.
We deceive ourselves constantly. I mean, a core challenge addressed in this knowledge base is our profound inability to accurately estimate our own energetic inputs and outputs.
Right. We think we're doing great.
Yeah, we assume we are burning thousands of calories in a 30-minute workout, and we assume that, that handful of almonds we grab in passing was only 50 calories, and both assumptions are wildly incorrect.
So someone hits a plateau, the scale stops moving for a week. Immediately, the narrative becomes, my metabolism is broken, or I'm in starvation mode, my body is holding on to fat.
What's fascinating here is why the human brain is so eager to blame a broken metabolism rather than acknowledge the reality of hidden calories.
Why do we do that?
Well, blaming a systemic invisible failure, like a broken metabolic system, it protects the ego.
Hmm.
It externalizes the blame. It allows the individual to say, hey, I'm doing everything perfectly, but my biology is betraying me.
So it's a defense mechanism.
Entirely.
Yep.
But when you look at the clinical data and actually audit the behavior, the intended calorie deficit has almost always been erased by unaccounted inputs.
The hidden inputs, like a heavier pour of olive oil in the pan, finishing the last 3 bites of a kid's dinner, a large sweetened coffee on the way to work.
Yes, and it only takes 3 or 4 of those micro decisions to add up to 400 calories.
Wow, just from bites and sips.
Yeah, and that completely wipes out the mathematical deficit needed for fat loss that day. But admitting that requires taking responsibility for those small, seemingly insignificant actions instead of blaming a phantom metabolic disease.
And this self-deception gets, like, supercharged when we bring the scale into the mix. I mean, the emotional exhaustion people go through, staring at that piece of plastic on the bathroom floor every morning, letting it dictate their self-worth for the day.
It causes immense, unnecessary psychological damage. You can literally be in a consistent, perfectly executed calorie deficit, actively losing body fat, and the scale might still go up.
Which brings us back to our opening question. How can gaining 2 pounds mean the diet is working? I know the module dives deep into water retention, but break down the actual mechanism for me. Why does the scale jump if I didn't gain fat?
Okay, so because the scale does not measure fat.
It doesn't.
Not at all. It simply measures gravitational pull on your entire physical mass at that specific second in time.
Right.
And that mass includes skeletal muscle, bone, organs, undigested food, and crucially, water. And water fluctuates wildly based on a variety of invisible factors.
Like what?
Well, cortisol, your stress hormone, that causes water retention. The sodium intake from your last meal pulls water into your cells. And then there is muscle glycogen.
Okay, muscle glycogen. Walk me through that.
So when you consume carbohydrates, your body breaks them down and stores them in your muscle tissue as an energy source called glycogen. And here's the mechanical reality. For every 1 gram of glycogen your muscles store, your body pulls in roughly 3 grams of water to hold it there.
Wait, 3 grams of water for every 1 gram of carbs.
That.
So if I have a really heavy leg workout on Friday and I eat a bunch of pasta to recover,
Your body greedily absorbs those carbohydrates, shuttles them into the depleted leg muscles, and pulls a massive amount of water along with it to store that energy.
wow,
So you step on the scale the next morning and you are 3 pounds heavier. But it isn't fat. It is literally just the fuel and water your muscles need to repair and grow. You are looking at the biological mechanism of recovery and interpreting it as failure.
you know, weighing yourself daily and panicking over a spike is like checking your retirement fund every single hour.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Because the daily fluctuations of the stock market, or in this case, sodium and water, completely mask the long-term trend. You wouldn't empty your entire 401k and quit your job just because the market dipped on a random Tuesday afternoon.
That is a phenomenal way to conceptualize it. You are agonizing over the static noise and completely missing the actual signal.
But practically speaking, how do we detach from that? If you're listening to this right now and you know you are guilty of letting that digital number ruin your morning, how do you mentally break that chain?
You have to force a shift in your metric of success. You move it from the lagging outcome to the leading behavior.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning, did you execute the plan today? Did you hit your nutritional targets? Did you complete your training with the intended intensity?
Focusing on the actions.
Yes. If you checked those behavioral boxes, the day is an absolute success, regardless of the gravitational pull on your body that morning. You let the long-term data trend over months tell the story, not the daily data point. And for you listening right now, consider where else in your life this applies. Where else are hidden inputs or misread data points skewing your perceived outputs?
That is a really sharp point. We do this everywhere. We think we are grinding away, working an 8-hour day. But if we actually audited our time, we spent 3 hours doom scrolling on our phones. The illusion of compliance isn't just a fitness problem, it's a human behavior problem.
The psychology overlaps perfectly.
So, if the illusion of compliance is dangerous when we are locked in our own houses with total control over our environment, what happens when we leave? Let's take this mindset and apply it to the real world. Traveling, business trips, social events. Because, it's easy to be disciplined when you have a fridge full of prep meals.
Oh, for sure. It's a controlled lab environment.
Right, but navigating a 4-day conference with catered lunches is a totally different sport.
This is exactly where the theoretical science is violently tested by practical reality. The module emphasizes that maintaining your progress during travel or social events requires strategic planning. And crucially, it requires prioritizing that strategy over the pursuit of absolute perfection.
Because aiming for perfection on the road is just setting a trap for yourself.
It leads to catastrophic behavioral failure. Let's say you tell yourself you will consume 0 carbohydrates and perfectly hit your macros on a high-stress business trip.
Sounds miserable.
It is. You are relying on immense psychological willpower. The moment you are exhausted and you eat a single breadstick at a client dinner, the mental dam breaks. The illusion of perfection is shattered, so the brain says, well, the day is ruined, I might as well eat everything in sight.
So if perfection is off the table, what is the actual strategy?
You optimize the variables you can still control. You book accommodations near a fitness facility so the barrier to entry for training is non-existent. You focus heavily on your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, your daily step count.
Because walking requires no gym and no equipment.
Exactly.
So take the stairs at the hotel, walk a dozen blocks to the meeting instead of calling a rideshare.
Precisely. And when dining out, you make sensible selections to manage your total intake, but you do it without isolating yourself socially. There is a deep psychological cost to being the person pulling cold Tupperware out of a bag at a nice restaurant while everyone else is connecting over a meal.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Which naturally brings us to the ultimate social hurdle, alcohol.
Yes. The big one.
The materials we're diving into provide a really fascinating evidence-based framework for this. And I love that they don't just say never drink. They advocate for calculated balance because demanding absolute sobriety just isn't a desirable or sustainable lifestyle for a massive portion of the population.
Yeah.
But to manage it, we have to understand what alcohol actually does to the body beyond just adding calories.
The biochemistry here is critical. We know alcohol contains calories, about 7 calories per gram, but it's the physiological cascade that matters. Think of your liver as a biological processing plant with a single main conveyor belt.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It handles fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, packaging them up or burning them for energy.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Alcohol literally forces the body to hit pause on burning everything else.
Because your body recognizes alcohol as a toxin. Unlike carbohydrates or fats, there is no storage depot in the body for alcohol. It cannot be stored as glycogen or adipose tissue.
It has nowhere to go.
Right. Therefore, clearing this toxin from your bloodstream becomes the liver's absolute top metabolic priority.
So the liver sweeps everything else off the conveyor belt to deal with the emergency.
Yes. While your body is frantically processing the alcohol, fat oxidation, the actual burning of body fat, is significantly blunted. It is paused.
So if you're eating while you're drinking.
Exactly. If you are consuming high-fat foods like a burger or heavily oiled appetizers while drinking, your body is much more likely to store that dietary fat because the metabolic machinery is entirely preoccupied with clearing the alcohol.
Wow. Okay, so the strategy for a night out isn't just about counting the calories in a margarita. It's about adjusting the ecosystem of the rest of your day. It's like financial budgeting.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
If you know you're buying an expensive dinner with friends tonight, you eat a cheaper lunch, you pre-adjust your carbohydrate and fat budget earlier in the day, you keep your meals lean, prioritize high protein, and that way you have the metabolic bandwidth to afford the drinks later.
And you prioritize lower-calorie beverages to avoid accidental caloric surges. A margarita made with an enormous splash of sugary syrup is an accidental surge. A spirit mixed with a 0-calorie sparkling water is a calculated, controlled choice.
Speaking of 0-calorie choices, let's talk about the morning after that night out. People are tired, they want a boost, and they reach for caffeine. But the sources highlight a massive double standard here when it comes to energy drinks. I found this part hilarious.
Oh, it really is.
People will look at a sugar-free energy drink like it is a canister of radioactive waste, but they will happily consume 3 oversized lattes from a coffee shop without blinking.
It is a fascinating study in consumer psychology. The aesthetic of energy drinks, the neon cans, the aggressive fonts, it feels synthetic and industrial.
Like battery acid.
Right. Coffee, on the other hand, is marketed as earthy, natural, and traditional. But biochemically, when we strip away the marketing and look at sugar-free variants, the primary active compound driving the effect in both beverages is identical. It's just caffeine.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate and push back on this a bit. Let's be real. We have all seen the news headlines about energy drinks causing heart palpitations or sending teenagers to the hospital. Is it actually just marketing, or are we ignoring a real cardiovascular risk here?
It is a valid question, but we have to look at the dose-response relationship. Caffeine is one of the most thoroughly researched central nervous system stimulants on the planet.
That's why the hospital visits.
The adverse events you see in headlines are almost entirely driven by extreme overconsumption. It's people stacking multiple energy drinks, pre-workout powders, and coffee, and just blowing past safe physiological limits.
Oh, so they're taking a massive overdose of a stimulant.
Correct. But within standard tolerance guidelines, which is generally around 400 milligrams a day for a healthy adult, it is incredibly safe. It reliably enhances athletic performance, increases cognitive alertness, and provides a slight bump in thermogenesis.
Thermogenesis, meaning it actually increases the amount of heat your body produces, burning a few extra calories at rest.
Exactly. So the fear of a single sugar-free energy drink is mathematically and biologically unfounded.
So we can finally stop shaming people for cracking open a diet energy drink before hitting the gym.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, whether we are analyzing the safety of energy drinks, budgeting for a glass of wine at a wedding, or finding a workable meal at a chaotic airport, the underlying theme is the same. Avoiding extreme, absolute restrictions is the master key to long-term success.
Because absolute restriction acts like a pressure cooker.
Yes. It creates intense psychological friction that inevitably explodes. By allowing for calculated flexibility, you remove the pressure. You guarantee the daily discipline we discussed at the very beginning because you are making the lifestyle survivable.
If the branch can bend, it won't snap in the wind. That makes total sense. But let's look at the flip side. Let's say someone listening has all of this completely dialed in.
Okay, best case scenario.
Right. They have mastered their psychological discipline, they are not lying to themselves about hidden inputs, and they're expertly budgeting their macros for social events. Even if you do all of that perfectly, there is still a hidden biological toll. There's an internal physical friction that comes with this lifestyle.
Yeah, this is where we move away from behavioral psychology and step into the unglamorous, unspoken realities of training. These are the physiological truths that rarely make it onto fitness blogs because they are uncomfortable and, frankly, a bit embarrassing to talk about.
We're talking about the gut, what actually happens to our gastrointestinal health when we pursue these goals.
When you place your body into an extended caloric deficit to strip away body fat, and you simultaneously reduce the total volume of food you are consuming, it significantly alters your standard gastrointestinal motility.
Meaning digestion slows down. But why?
It is an ancient evolutionary defense mechanism. Physiologically, when the body detects a chronic restriction in incoming energy, it interprets that as a mild famine.
Wow, a famine.
Right. So to survive, it slows down the transit time of food through the digestive tract. It keeps the food in the intestines longer to wring out and extract every possible micro and macronutrient. Furthermore, if you are simply eating less physical mass of food, there is less mechanical pressure pushing the waste through the system.
So everything grinds to a halt. You end up with chronic discomfort, bloating, and let's just say severe constipation, which nobody wants to admit.
Nobody.
People will eagerly post a picture of a bleeding callus on their hand from a heavy deadlift, show how hardcore they are, but nobody is going to post that they haven't gone to the bathroom in 4 days because their diet is too aggressive.
It remains a silent struggle, but it is a massive point of failure for transformations. If you are chronically uncomfortable, your training performance drops, your sleep architecture is disrupted, and the systemic stress will likely cause you to abandon the protocol entirely.
So how do we fix it?
The data emphasizes that managing this requires preventative strategies, primarily focusing on the microbiome.
Plant variants, right?
Yes. It is not just about eating a single type of vegetable every day. It requires consuming a wide spectrum of dietary fiber and varied plant sources to support intestinal flora stability. Your gut bacteria need diverse fuel to keep the metabolic machinery functioning efficiently when food volume is low. Nutrition is not just a math equation for manipulating body weight. It is the raw physical material your internal biological systems use to function.
Which brings us to the mechanical toll. Gut motility isn't the only hidden issue.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the physical pressure we put on the body when we train, specifically the pelvic floor.
Yes. Heavy resistance training, by its very nature, demands significant spikes in intra-abdominal pressure to keep the spine safe.
I got a bit lost in the module here, to be honest.
Yeah.
What is the actual mechanic happening inside the core when someone goes down into a heavy squat? We instinctively hold our breath and bear down, right, the Valsalva maneuver. But why do we do that?
Okay, think of your spine as a stack of fragile blocks. If you put a heavy barbell on top of that stack, it wants to buckle. To prevent that, you take a deep breath into your belly and forcefully contract your core muscles against that trapped air. You are essentially turning your torso into a highly pressurized, rigid cylinder. That internal pressure supports the spine from the inside, preventing it from collapsing under the weight.
Okay, I see. But here's the danger. Lifting heavy without proper bracing mechanics is like squeezing a water balloon from the top with one hand. All that intense pressure has to go somewhere. If you don't have a supportive, evenly distributed container all the way around, the pressure finds the weakest point. It forcefully pushes down.
It pushes violently down onto the pelvic floor. If an individual is not utilizing proper 360-degree intra-abdominal bracing, if they are just holding their breath and squeezing haphazardly without engaging the deep pelvic musculature to support that downward force, the consequences are severe.
Like what?
It leads to chronic tissue strain, pelvic floor dysfunction, incontinence, and dangerous localized spikes in cardiovascular pressure.
And this isn't just some niche issue for elite powerlifters. This is a critical preventative measure for anyone who wants to lift weights without causing long-term structural damage.
This raises an important question. Why is the broader fitness community endlessly eager to debate the optimal angle for bicep hypertrophy or the exact milligram timing of a protein shake, but entirely ignores standard gastrointestinal motility and pelvic floor integrity?
Because it's not sexy. I mean, no one is going viral selling a supplement for intra-abdominal bracing.
That is the harsh reality. But if your gut motility grinds to a halt, or your pelvic floor weakens to the point of clinical dysfunction, your ability to train for hypertrophy or endurance is completely neutralized. Respecting these unspoken, invisible physical systems is just as vital as tracking your visible macros.
So what does this all mean? If we look back at this entire journey through the research today, we see that true fitness is not just about what happens on the gym floor for an hour a day. It is a holistic battle.
Absolutely.
It requires dismantling the self-deception and the illusion of compliance in our own minds. It means learning to balance the mathematical reality of a night out with friends without spiraling into guilt or absolute restriction. And crucially, it means respecting the unspoken physical systems that keep us moving, from the delicate evolutionary balance of our microbiome to the structural integrity of our pelvic floor.
It is an interconnected system. And for you, the listener, we want to thank you for joining this deep dive. We hope it provided some clarity on the mechanisms behind the struggle. But remember, this knowledge is only truly valuable when you actively apply it to your own unique daily routines, your own social obligations, and your own physical feedback loops. Audit your own behaviors, look past the daily noise of the stale, and be rigorously honest with yourself about your inputs.
Be ruthlessly honest about those hidden inputs.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you diving into this complex architecture with us today. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We have spent a lot of time today dissecting how sensitive our bodies are to these tiny daily fluctuations and how intensely prone our minds are to the illusion of compliance when it comes to our habits. So consider this. If we are this capable of fundamentally misjudging our physical reality, how much of our perceived limitations in entirely different areas of our lives, like our career ceilings, our relationships, or our creative potential, are actually just hidden self-deceptions or misread data?
That is a profound question to walk away with.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Till next time.